Well, hey, friends, welcome to this week's Q on Q. We're glad you're with us this week. If you've been listening since the start of the year, you know we've been focusing on two major series so far, focusing on the things, people, and experiences that matter, and impressions that we make and take. Well, we're going to shift gears this week. Literally, I guess you could say. This week we kick off our new series, Shifting Gears, exploring how the different gears in life affect our journey. Well, I want to start by asking you to take a minute and think about when you first learned to drive. Think about the gear shift or the gear knob or whatever you call it. Think about all the buttons and all the things you had to pull and the things you had to change. And, when you first learned what all those things did, sometimes you're amazed by it. Sometimes you're overwhelmed by it. I want to think specifically about that gear shift for a minute. Think about how the transmission connected to so many other parts, and that little lever made the car do so many things. We all started in park. Maybe we were anxious to put it in drive, but we had to start in that stationary position and get ourselves used to sitting in the vehicle. Most of us then started with drive, albeit slowly, maybe in a parking lot or on a back road. We took our foot off the brake and slowly moved forward. And now, I want you to think about the first time you went in reverse. Think about all the mirrors. Think about all the things around you and how you had to orient yourself with backing up. It's a useful gear when you need to go backwards, adjust, or get out of a tight spot. But if you try to drive in reverse for too long, you're either going to crash or go nowhere fast. The same thing happens in life. Sometimes we find ourselves looking back too much, whether it's replaying mistakes or dwelling on regrets or wishing things could go back to the way they used to be. But if we're always looking behind us, how can we move forward? Have you ever felt like the past has a grip on you? Maybe you keep revisiting an old failure, convinced it still defines you. Or maybe you've been holding on to a past season of life so tightly that you struggle to embrace where you are right now. We all have moments where we wonder what could have been, or we get stuck in the comfort of familiarity, even if it's not serving us anymore. History is full of examples of people who couldn't move forward because they were too focused on the past. Some of them let fear, nostalgia, or even regret keep them from growing, while others found a way to learn from their experiences and step into something new. What makes the difference? Why do some people stay stuck while others shift gears and move ahead? That's what we're going to unpack today. We're going to explore the ways looking back can hold us back, how to recognize when we're stuck in reverse, and most importantly, how to shift forward. Along the way, during our time together today, we're going to talk about practical ways to break free from the past and embrace what's ahead, whether that's in our personal growth, relationships, or even in our faith. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever struggled to let go of something that's behind you, or if you're just ready to move forward but aren't sure how, then this episode's for you. Let's talk about shifting out of reverse and stepping into what's next. So reverse, it's an important gear. It serves a clear purpose when driving. It allows you to back out of a parking spot and reposition yourself when you've gone too far or make some adjustments when needed. Without reverse, you'd be stuck in place every time you needed to change direction, or you would only be going in circles. In life, the ability to reflect on the past can be just as valuable. Looking back can have its benefits because it can help us learn from our experiences, recognize patterns, and make better choices moving forward. There's nothing wrong with revisiting the past when it helps us adjust our path. But here's the thing. Reverse isn't meant for long-term travel. If you tried to drive in reverse down a highway, you'd be a danger to yourself and everybody around you. Besides that, your visibility is limited, your control is reduced, and eventually, you are bound to crash. The same is true in life. While it's healthy to glance back occasionally, living in the past can keep us from moving forward. Whether it's dwelling on mistakes or regretting missed opportunities, or holding on to what used to be, staying in reverse too long prevents growth. One of the biggest traps of reverse is the illusion that if we just replay the past enough times, we can change it. We analyze old conversations, we rethink discussions, and wonder how things could have turned out differently. But hear me out. No matter how much time we spend looking back on those things, the past remains the same. And I'm not saying we should be regretting things, but what we can change is how we respond to it. Instead of using the past as a roadblock, we can use it as a lesson, a reference point for better choices ahead. Another challenge of staying in reverse is that it keeps us from fully experiencing the present. If you're constantly looking over your shoulder, you are going to miss what is literally right in front of you. Life continues to move forward, even if we don't. Opportunities, relationships, and new experiences are all happening now, but we won't see them if we're too busy fixating on where we've been before. When we spend too much time in reverse, we risk missing out on what's next. So, how do we know when we're using reverse the right way versus when we're stuck in it? I think the key is recognizing whether our reflection is leading to growth or stagnation. Are we looking back to gain wisdom and perspective that we can grow from? Or are we stuck in regret and longing? Are we learning from our past, or are we letting it define us? The past should inform our future, but it should never control it. Maybe you've known someone who couldn't let go of an old season in life. A person who keeps talking about the good old days as if nothing in the present could ever measure up. Or maybe you've struggled with replaying past mistakes, feeling like they define you. These are all signs of being stuck in reverse, and they can keep us from experiencing the growth and opportunities that come with moving forward. I think one of the biggest reasons people get stuck in reverse is regret and maybe even guilt. We all have moments we wish we could undo. Words we shouldn't have said, decisions we wish we made differently, or failures that weigh heavily on us. It's easy to believe that our past mistakes define us, shaping our future in ways we can't escape. But the truth is, our failures don't have to be the end of our story. Peter's denial of Jesus is a powerful example of this in Luke chapter 22 in the Bible. In his lowest moment, he wept bitterly, overcome with shame. Yet Jesus didn't leave him in that place. Instead, after his resurrection, Jesus restored Peter, giving him a new purpose. If Peter had let his past define him, he never would have stepped into the role he was meant for. In the same way, we don't have to let our worst moments determine our future. Grace is always greater than failure. Another way we can get stuck in reverse is through nostalgia. Like I mentioned before, the longing for the good old days. It's never wrong to look back and remember fond memories. It's natural to remember past seasons of life, but when we cling too tightly to what was, we risk missing out on what is, and especially on what could be. The Israelites in the wilderness struggled with this. Even though they had been freed from slavery, they looked back at their time in Egypt with longing, remembering the food they enjoyed and forgetting the suffering they had endured at the same time. How often do we do the same? We look back at a past job, relationship, or stage of life and romanticize it. Or maybe we focus on the one good thing that we had, ignoring the challenges that came with it. The question we need to ask ourselves is this: are we holding on to the past simply because it's familiar, even if it's not where we're supposed to be? Closely related to nostalgia is the trap of resentment, unforgiveness toward those who have wronged us. Sometimes we're stuck in reverse, not because of our own mistakes, but because of the way others have hurt us. It's easy to replay those moments, justify our anger, and hold on to bitterness. But in doing so, we often hurt ourselves more than anyone else. Joseph had every reason to hold on to resentment after being betrayed by his brothers. Yet instead of letting bitterness control him, he chose forgiveness. recognizing that even through his suffering, God had a greater plan. When we let go of past hurts, we're not excusing what happened. We're freeing ourselves to move forward. Living in the past, whether through regret, nostalgia, or unforgiveness, keeps us from fully embracing the present. If we are constantly looking backward, we are going to miss the opportunities, the relationships, and most importantly, the growth that is right in front of us. The longer we stay in reverse, the harder it becomes to catch up. The past can be a great teacher, but it's a terrible place to live. We have to decide whether we will let it shape us in a healthy way or trap us in a cycle. No matter what's in our past, we don't have to stay stuck in it. It's easy to let regret, mistakes, or those missed opportunities I talked about weigh us down. But the truth is, the past is unchangeable. Our only response to it is within our control. And that's why moving forward starts with shifting our focus. I want to read you a passage from the book of Isaiah, chapter 43. In verses 18 and 19, it says this: "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing." This reminder isn't about erasing our past, but about not letting it control our future. Life is always moving forward, always. And we have the choice to move with it or to stay in reverse. Dwelling on our mistakes or our failures is one of the biggest roadblocks to progress. We replay those moments we wish we could change, holding on to guilt and self-doubt. But growth will only happen when we learn from those experiences rather than being defined by them. Even in faith, the message is clear. Our past doesn't have to dictate our future. We can let our mistakes hold us back or use them as stepping stones to something better. If we want to shift out of reverse, the first step is recognizing what's keeping us there. Which one of the things that I've mentioned today is holding you back? Are you stuck because of regret? Are you constantly longing for the past, convinced life was better at another time? Are you holding on to resentment from a past hurt? Identifying what's keeping us from moving forward is crucial because once we name it, we can begin to release it. Whether that means making peace with a decision, embracing the present, or choosing to forgive. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let the past have power over us anymore. It also helps to seek guidance, whether through prayer, reflection, or wisdom from others. Some of the best growth happens when we take a step back and reframe how we view our past. Instead of seeing it as something that holds us back, we can start seeing it as something that has shaped us. Maybe it's spending time with a friend talking, or spending time reading your scriptures, or journaling, or finding some way to shift your mindset from regret to renewal. The people we surround ourselves with play a huge part in whether we stay stuck or move forward. If we're constantly around voices that encourage us to relive the past, whether through all the things I mentioned or not, it becomes even harder to break free. But when we have people in our lives who encourage us to grow, challenge us to think differently, and remind us of what's ahead, it's easier to take that next step. Might be a friend, might be a mentor, might be a supportive community. Regardless, surrounding yourself with the right people makes all the difference. So I want to start to wind things down today by kind of summarizing a little bit and giving you a challenge. All in all, moving forward requires action. It's not enough to just think about letting go or hope that change will come on its own. Progress happens when we take even the smallest step forward. Whether that's choosing to forgive, embracing a new opportunity, or simply deciding to stop replaying the past. I'm not going to sit here and say it's always going to feel comfortable, but movement is key. Remember, the past is a chapter, but it's not your entire story. There's a difference between reflecting on the past and being controlled by it. This is where we have to shift our mindset. I want to read something to you from Proverbs chapter 24. Verse 16 says, "The righteous may fall 7 times, but they rise again." What does that mean? It reminds us setbacks aren't the end of the story unless we allow them to be. Healthy reflection helps us grow, but fixating on that past or those difficult times, those difficult hurts, that can prevent us from experiencing the present fully. I use this analogy a lot, but think about the difference between a car's rear view mirror and the windshield. The rear view mirror is small because it's meant for occasional glances, not for staring at the entire time we drive. The windshield, on the other hand, is wide and open, giving us a full view of where we're headed. In life, we should treat the past like a rearview mirror. Something to glance at for perspective, but not something to focus on so much that we miss what's ahead. We're not always going to feel ready to move forward. Sometimes change is really uncomfortable, and sometimes it's easier to stay in what's familiar, even if it's unhealthy. But life is happening now, not in the past. If we spend too much time looking back, we're going to risk missing the opportunities God is placing right in front of us. So, how do you break free? I'm going to challenge you this week to shift your perspective. Instead of letting the past define you, you can choose to learn from it. Instead of longing for what was, we can embrace what is. And instead of holding on to resentment, we can choose freedom that comes with forgiveness. Reverse has a purpose, but it's not meant to be where we stay. At some point, we have to shift gears. We have to turn our eyes forward and move ahead. Life isn't meant to be lived looking in the rearview mirror. It's time to put our hands on the wheel, shift into the right gear, and drive forward to what's next. So, what areas of your life are holding you back from moving forward? My challenge this week is this: take time to reflect on where you are. If you're stuck in reverse or always looking back, what's one small step you can take to shift out of reverse? Maybe it's forgiving somebody and letting go of some bitterness in your heart. Maybe it's letting go of an old regret and realizing it's time to move on. Maybe it's as simple as embracing the present moment. I pray this week that you will find the courage to shift forward, to trust that the road ahead holds new opportunities, and to believe that your best days are not behind you, but in front of you. Remember, friends, life moves forward, and so can you. Don't let the past define you. Let it refine you. You're not meant to stay stuck in what was, but you are meant to step boldly into what can be. Keep moving. Keep growing, even a little bit at a time, and trust that there's something greater waiting for you just ahead. Well, next time we're going to talk about another gear: park. When is it necessary to pause and wait? And when does staying still become a problem? Make sure to tune in next time as we continue the Shifting Gears series. For now, thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate your support. We'll see you back here next time when we'll have more for you on Cue.